Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I explained time episode before, and now I'm going to explain how I become Imam Mahdi alayhi Sallam as in Hadith. I war several times to save Huzur Pak Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's dead body from enemy. Several times criminal people, even people of Makkah Medina, tried to steal Huzur Pak Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's dead body and to sell to France, to his country. And thus they did so many wrong things, and I went there, war and win every time. In this type of situation, in a time episode created by Commonwealth and its followers, and in that time I was completely shooted. Every inch of my body was shooted by bullet. My son was killed, wife was dead, others were caught, and thus in a very dangerous situation, Commonwealth army surrounded Medina, Makkah, and not giving to pray Salat in Masjid al-Nabi. Conscious tax money at every time. One of the Masjid al-Nabi Imam gave his whole life income to pray one waqt Salat at least. And thus in this type of situation I went and shooted by a Hala named princess of Saudi Arabia, so long, tall, beautiful, and it was very bad. And I found Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave was digged, and they insulted, threw me in his grave, and before that I became senseless when every inch of my body was shooted by bullet. And though I understood my life has not gone, I was crawling to the grave of Huzur Pak Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there they caught me again and threw in Huzur Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave and wanted to put soil on that so that I and Huzur Pak Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be in same grave and dead forever. And thus my blood was almost dropping on Huzur Pak Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I thought, Ya Allah, if I am known I am Muhammad sallam, then cut my name from your exercise book. How many insult and pain I will bear in my life, and Huzur Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam after death will be. By thinking thus, crying to Allah, I moved back in space in the grave, and on the side of the grave I caught it by hand and waking up crawling. Suddenly a sound I found from Asman, that there will be some little bit late. I am coming. I understand Jibreel Sallam, angel is coming from Asman. All Asman saying like this, and grave sound was happening, and suddenly every enemy became a stone. All becoming stone, and my all pain, all bullet removed from the body, and I become like a healthy, wealthy man, as not touched by any injury. And in my hand there was a power to make someone just touch and will be stone. And thus I made a stone, and one was not a stone fully, half a stone, half man. That was burned ash for over touching by hand, and became ash. And thus situation started to change. All Commonwealth army was afraid. My son became alive by Allah again, and touching all, and dying. All wife became alive again, touching or becoming a stone. And at this time Commonwealth army is a very big problem. They are afraid. They took princess and joined on my side, and suddenly Huzur Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam bring a tabut, a sakina. Allah sent from the inside of 70,000 jils of him. Tabut sakina Allah is keeping, and now give Jibreel Sallam and bring to inside all the world. and I opened the tabut and took Musa alayhi salam's stick, golden stick, and I thrown on, and that became huge snake like that was eating whole Moses and be like, and they started to eat all enemy, all stone, and washing off all enemy from Medina. And when it washed up whole Medina came, I caught it and became snake. And the two princes of Britain now commanded their super fighters not to attack Medina. But before that, all real people, so many king, queen, president, prime minister, became stoned and eaten up by the holy stick of Musa Sallam. And Allah announced for that they will never be able to come before Qiyamah in this world, and they are dead forever and went in hell by the golden stick of Musa Sallam. And thus I win in the war, and I defeated all with the help of Allah. And then Jibreel Sallam came after that, and one-eyed Dajjal-like man was killed by me there by the knife of Huzur Sallam's dead body. That knife was attached, and thus that died and became ash. After that, Huzur Muhammad Sallam wake up in grave and talked with me after Salam and talked with me, and again dead like. And then Jibreel Sallam came and asked me where Tabut Sakina will keep, and then I told him he will keep here inside land, and when I will come inside water, that will come out also from land. And thus Tabut Sakina situation was happened, and Allah announced to Jibreel Sallam announced that you are announced as emperor for all time episode in your life. And now Mahdi Sallam, your perception will happen. And thus in a Jibreel Sallam and I was standing, and in the month of Ramadan of that year, sun leaves and moon leaves happened and done by Jibreel Sallam, sun leaves and moon leaves. And then on that time Jibreel Sallam took me in Kaaba Sharif in a second, and Jibreel Sallam made me tall, and he became huge man like tall. All was looking, and then Huzur Sallam, Huzur Jibreel alayhi salam told me to tawaf, and all people were making tawaf was replaced from the place in a safe distance, but their tawaf was running and told me to tawaf. Then I started to tawaf, and when I was between Rukun Yamani and Maqam Ibrahim, Jibreel Sallam sound Haza Khalifatullahil Mahdi Watiyu. Again he sound Haza Khalifatullahil Mahdi Fastami Watiyu. And thus I announced as Imam Mahdi, and this all in Hadith Allah fulfilled by time movement and by moon eclipse, all Allah matched with Hadith, and my perception happened forever in that time episode. And to prove those, now Shadija I called to give $10,000 to Madina Supreme Court, and she gave, and after 7 days they listened me, they observed me, they talked with me, said you are not Imam Mahdi, but more 7 days we will observe, and sent Khadija back to Russia. And in Russia they gave news that Khadija held false Imam Mahdi, and all people beaten up Khadija and killed and graved in a place that no one knew. And then after more 7 days observing, those judges asked me so many questions I answered properly, and they announced me as Imam Mahdi Alayhiwa, and rest of incident will happen in future. 99% of Hadith Quran matched with me as I am real Imam Mahdi. Thus they give judgment result, and they give a very dangerous letter to Alayhiwa palace to give me extra officer to announce me as emperor for all time episode of Saudi Arabia, and so to Arab, even so to whole world. And thus my war began, and Alayhiwa was not listening, did not give me hadith. So many people were against me. So I started to fight, again come back in this country. But how will go back? I was injured. Again somehow Allah took me there. And one day I became succeed to enter in Raja Mubarak. And there are going. And I made other work. A lot of enemy following to Raja Mubarak were killed. My sons are alive and defeating all enemies, like in cartoon this was to see. And thus Huzur Sallam was very happy for my other work. One day wake up in his grave and said to me, give Mahdi give your author on my head side, on my whole grave. And thus I gave Kasturi author on his whole grave. Salman and his son came with a small sack of kasturi. That's also I dropped at the leg of Huzur Pak Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Angel Jibril alayhi salam opened the door of Raja Mubarak because I had no key. They all had taken. And thus, so I went again in Raja Mubarak's work with my child's help, and I won. Huzur Pak sallallahu was so happy. And after that I came to know 10 lakh orek they have cut, given Qurbani by saying Bismillah Allah Akbar to make kasturi, huge kasturi pot, tanki of a kasturi. With Mark's help I spread up the high kasturi in Raja Mubarak, cleaned by Mujeza, touched out the Sakina cried, and my body figure color become like Madina white male. I look. Then I started to look so beautiful too. And thus I was coming out from Raja Mubarak, locked and key in my hand, then went out to work. Then I started to pay Daniel Button $50,000 for using Filmora. And and then I started to work. Allah gave me power to work without food, and thus I worked 15 days, but Medina women started to cook whole lamb and used to come to give me hadiah. And thus 10 lakh bodyguard was assigned for me from Alayhiwa palace, and they started to work, and their salary was till $1.5 lakh per month, and always surrounded me, and in that I used to work, and women of Medina used to come food. So some wrong thing happened, and after those I started to take food with them, and after setting whole army by my laptop and it, I went unchallenged by all why Huzur is not alive again in November. Then I went, and suddenly, while they almost trying to kill me by saying me liar, not your mother's, their language was so unetiquette, and suddenly Huzur Pak came out from grave as alive. And they started to run from here. In my hand just a sword and a machine gun I took, and all evil was running, hiding fast. One did bathroom before Rasulullah sallallahu, and punishment was death, and another went run to, and another one to attack by saying Huzur false. So I started my machine gun to teach them good lesson. Aside Tawdu Sakina Jibril Sallam announced to whole Asman Shariat Huzur Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to next episode.